It's that time, ladies and gentlemen. I know some of you have been waiting for a while now. Some of you couldn't give less of a shit, and some of you have no idea what I'm even talking about. Today is the day I finally look at The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. No, not really. Crash Twinsanity. God damn. It's been a year since I did my first video on the Wrath of Cortex, and ever since then, you guys have wanted to hear my thoughts on this game. And on the day that is... whenever the fuck this video's coming out, it's a miracle it's happening at all. The prophecy is fulfilled. Now a bit of backstory here, since padding seems to be the only thing I'm good at doing, this is the second Crash Bandicoot game I ever played, following this botched abortion. I remember seeing the ads for this game, all of which came complete with gimmicky slogans and Cortex spanking Crash's ass like some sort of fanfiction. I was around 6 years old when this finally came out, and even then, I thought it looked incredibly weird, all of this coming from someone who loved Son of the Mask as a kid. I think the desensitization missed a few spots. Regardless, it came out, and I rented it from Blockbuster all the fucking time. To put this in perspective for some of you, this happened so long ago that Blockbuster was still in business. This is the copy I bought a few years later after GameStop had taken off. Funnily enough, I own 2 copies of the game, both of which are roommates in this here case. The first one looking normal enough, but the second one not so much, as it's been graffitied. Apparently someone named Katerik... Cat Eric. Cat Dick. Loved the game so much they signed it like Andy from Toy Story. Stupid fucking kids with their stupid fucking names and all this shit. Oh yeah, what's your name? Oh, you know, it's Cat Dick. I read it on all my games. Oh, you fucking shit. Well, thank you, Katniss, for trading this into GameStop, but not only that, for also giving it a tramp stamp so I could know whose bitch it was before I bought it. But at the same time, fuck you. Who the hell tags a game disc? So without any further ado, this is Crash Twinsanity, or as it's known in Japan, Crash Bandicoot 5, The Ambition of Crash and Cortex. Sounds like a fucking shitty soap opera, let's be honest. Now it's been a while since I've done this, but I think the game goes in here, then I push this. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. Now, can I just begin things by saying that this title screen music is a symphony akin to Beethoven? Oh my god! It's good. One of the things this game is loved for most is its wacky sense of humor. In fact, it pulls no punches. What you see is what you get. Case in point, this is one of the first images you see after starting. Try to contain your excitement. As amazing as it would be to show this with no context, I sadly can't do that, so I'm gonna have to be boring here and give you a bit of a play-by-play. Coco's chasing bugs, Cortex zaps her, steals her clothes, and then talks Crash into following him. It's really the classic Tom and Jerry or even Coyote Roadrunner formula here. You've got the guy setting the trap and the fool who's dull enough to fall into it.
It is I, Aku Aku. My duty is to protect you. You may summon me by breaking open these crates. Call me thrice, and I shall grant you special powers.
Okay. Thrice! Insanity Beach. It was awesome to see it in all its glory on the PS2. I mean, this is before we had the Insane trilogy in all of its remade splendor. This is probably one of my favorite starting areas of all time. It allows you to get used to the controls and even demonstrate certain things, like being able to push around spherical objects, which is something you do a lot throughout the game. In fact, the best part about it is that it's a tutorial section without overbearing tutorials that hammer their way down your throat. In the end, you come out feeling like a badass, not Sasha Grey. And then you get to the jungle section and ho-hoy matey! Calm it down with the forced tutorial cutscenes. I mean, if this is your first time playing the game, then all power to ya, watch them all you want. But I've been playing this for over a decade, and it really doesn't suit my needs. It really sucks because this whole ordeal could have been solved by adding in a skip button or something, but no. I need to watch this pissed off skunk tell me how unhappy he is about his job. Then again, skipping these cutscenes would mean that you don't get to see Cortex being the conniving fuck that he is. Look at that face, you just want to slap him silly. But oh hell, things are getting pretty steamy. You mean to tell me that wasn't Coco? Apparently it's Crash's birthday. What is he? 20? And Cortex invited all of his friends. Seriously, almost all of the villains from the previous Crash games are here, and that's pretty cool. Not Rillaroo though. Probably too busy sucking a Rilla dick. Then you take part in a boss fight, which leads into an epic boss fight against Mecha Bandicoot! Truth be told, this is an incredibly easy boss fight, which makes sense, it's only the second one in the game. But the spectacle of it makes it cooler than it should be. Following this is what the game proudly boasts: Cortex and Crash teaming up. In fact, this was a major selling point for this game. Enemy versus enemy, working together at last. Okay, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, there's time for that later. This is really when the game takes off and the multiple gameplay varieties are introduced. Granted, a majority of the game is a very Spyro the Dragon semi-open world experience with Crash alone, there's numerous times you're stuck with Cortex. These actually help the game stand out amongst the rest in the series since it's so odd. Who'd have ever thought that Crash and Cortex would team up, let alone have a game where it's one of the main focusing points? But yeah, when you're not performing shenanigans including whatever this is supposed to be, you're exploring levels in a sort of open world linear platformer hybrid. I say this because while you can go off and explore, you're always going to have to come back to the path that the game intends for you to follow. I really enjoy the way Crash controls in this game, something about it just feels right, like it's ultra responsive and snappy. Being that he now has a permanent double jump is pretty cool too, though this inclusion really only lends itself to some of the level designs. Each area has its own collectibles in the form of gems. These play no real part in the game unless you're going for 100% completion. Seriously, you can beat the entire thing without needing to pick up even one, though collecting all of them unlocks this pretty humorous video of Crash and Cortex performing trust exercises. As I said before though, there's plenty of moments where you have to control both characters, the first time maneuvering the two as they roll through an underground cavern. You get a real sense of speed as the ball rolls down slopes and goes off of jumps, and I think it's safe to say that this is one of the best ball sections in a video game. The second type of gameplay with Cortex is kind of like normal Crash gameplay, except your vertical mobility is lacking. Most of the time, these sections will be limited to brawling and smashing objects, though there are certain moments where you have to throw Cortex so he can flip a switch or something. Following this is Dock Amuck, where you have to clear pathways for Cortex, who's usually being chased by something like bees or even Evil Crash. Then there's Humiliscate, which is probably my favorite of these gameplay sections. Basically, Crash snowboards on Cortex. Yeah, I mean, do I have to say any more in regards to this? It's fucking Crash Bandicoot riding Cortex down a mountain with good controls. What other details do you need? Last but not least is the section where Cortex gets trapped in a barrel. Here you roll him through various pipe networks. This section actually requires a lot of thinking and planning beforehand, as every connecting pipe has to be in place or else Cortex will die, which is something I rather enjoy. Now that I think about it, there's considerably more puzzles in this game than anyone in the series before it. Granted, most are only solved in order to get a gem, they're still present. I really love the characters in this game. There's just something about them here that you don't get anywhere else. Of course, there's Dr. Cortex, voiced brilliantly by Lex Lang. I really love the goofy emotions he gives off through his speech, my favorite probably being this one.
Keep back, you weak-minded fool! Avert your gaze or you'll go crystal crazy!
There's also new characters like the Evil Twins, a couple of parrots who want to take over the world. And let's not forget the one and only Rusty Walrus, who's Injin's chef. Funnily enough, he was supposed to make his first appearance in Crash Team Racing, but was cut. I think a more interesting fact, however, is that his name is slang for a really gross sexual act. Have you ever heard of the Alaskan Pipeline? Well, it's synonymous with Rusty Walrus. For those of you who don't know, it's a slang term pertaining to the act of taking a dump in a condom, placing it in a freezer, and then using it as a sort of poop dildo. Talk about a shitty time. This actually goes pretty well with the phrase he utters to Crash.
Ah, yummy fresh meat for my pot.
It's actually a common misperception that he says, "Ah, yummy fresh meat for my butt." I'll be honest, I thought he said that as a kid. Thinking about it though, it really goes hand in hand with the whole DIY dildo business. Before you let that poop-ridden condom be shoved up your garbage chute, you gotta welcome it.
Oh!
Now that this video's been tainted by some deep web shit, let's talk about something fans either love or hate. The music. The soundtrack here stands out quite a bit from other games, as it was actually performed by the group Spiral Mouth, who are all a cappella. This means that no instruments were used at all, only voices. I'll be honest, I'm one of the fans that loves this soundtrack, as it really goes hand in hand with the goofy nature of the game, and in a few instances, sounds incredibly badass. I mean, what other game do you know that plays the Blue Danube while you're saving someone from murderous natives? I'm not sure if that's considered a good argument in this game's favor, but I'm sticking to it. Out of every track though, I think my favorite one is where Louis Armstrong sings about someone taking a dump in his drink. Give it a listen. Going back to the goofy nature of things, this game is funny as hell, with plenty of witty one-liners.
Who are these evil upstarts? I've ruined the lives of so many, I can't be expected to remember them all.
Classic cartoon slapstick akin to the likes of Looney Tunes.
I'm okay. The spikes broke my fall.
And really just over-the-top stuff.
Fish?
It's no mystery as to why this is a lot of people's favorite title of the series, following the original trilogy, of course. But then, there's that one thing. The true horror of Twinsanity that finally comes to life and leaves families broken. The glitches. Avert your eyes from the screen. These horrible mishaps are so ungodly that I've never experienced even one of them. Yeah, in my decade plus of playing this game, I've never come across one of these aforementioned game-breaking glitches, as many have remarked them. I've definitely seen them in videos, that's no lie, but it always seems like you have to intentionally seek them out in order to have them affect your game. There are some bugs here though, like why does touching the Tikimon boss even after I've killed it hurt Crash? Why does touching Coco hurt Crash? Even Aku doesn't do what he said he would. Liar? I don't know. Maybe it's all some sort of deeper meaning on the well-being of Crash and his journey to accepting himself. Oh my god. All of these signs, the spanking, the dressing as a woman, the limited vertical mobility, even the rusty walrus. It all points to one undoubtable fact. Crash Bandicoot is in fact homosexual. But hey, that's just an inquiry. A game inquiry. Thanks for watching. Also, Spyro! There's even moments where you control Dr. Cortex himself. While this is an interesting idea, it could have been executed a tiny bit better, especially since these sections are almost completely limited to just button mashing. He's not the only Cortex you get to play as though, since you also get to play as his niece, Nina. Yeah, people are still trying to figure out what exactly she is in relation to Cortex. She can punch, spin, and scale buildings, though it's only ever controlled a few times throughout the game. Before long, the trio arrives in the 10th dimension, which is basically a mirror reality of the first dimension. After a heated pursuit involving Evil Crash, the final destination is in sight. The Evil Twins' lair. I actually really like this level. It's got some good platforming bits and the variety of colors pop against the dark background. Following this, you fight the twins in a 3-stage battle, the first being with Nina, as you have to scale these electrical devices and destroy the transformers on top of them. After her is Cortex, where you mash the controller like a madman. I mean, what's new? You did button mash, give me all the good hash. Finally, the best of all, Crash piloting the Mecha Bandicoot. God damn, there's something about this entire moment that never fails to bring a stupid grin to my face. I mean, Crash is in control of the machine created to destroy him. That's awesome! After all this, the twins retreat, presumably get some rusty walrus action from Evil Crash over here, and Cortex attempts to get rid of Crash once and for all, only to get trapped in his head. Very, very poetic if I do say so myself. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Twinsanity. It's breaking the boundaries of morals. I've never failed to see why fans of the series love this game so much and consider it to be one of the best. It's charming, fun, and surprisingly original. It definitely suffers from some stupid flaws, but it's fortunate enough that the good outweighs the bad. Sure, it's a pretty short game with no replay value, but I'd say that if you're a fan of Crash or cartoons in general, it's definitely worth your time. And here we are at the end of the line. Some of you are probably expecting me to reach into the case and grab Tag Team Racing, but that's not gonna happen. Not this time. I've been talking about Crash Bandicoot for over a year now, and I feel like I need to move on to bigger things. So with that said, I'm done with Crash Bandicoot. Some of you might be mad. Some of you might even unsubscribe. And that's fine. You subscribed for Crash, and now that it's over, you're on your way. I completely understand. But you know what? I'll give a quick review of this game. I think I was like 11, and I had to go to the dentist just to get my, teeth looked at and cleaned. And in the waiting room, they had a TV and a PS2. Now, the only game they had to play was this. My review of Crash Tag Team Racing. Now, it's not a good game, but it's not a bad game. It's the type of game you'd play at a dentist's office. Whether that's good or bad, I'll leave up to you. But to those of you who are going to stick around and see whatever wacky predicament I end up in next, there's one thing I want to say. I don't know where I'm headed, and I don't know where it'll take me. But having you there along for the ride will make things a lot better, and I'm glad to have you by my side. Thank you. Want to keep up with everything that I'm up to? You probably don't. But for those of you who do, head on over to twitter.com/ThatGuyCal show and click follow.